Welcome back to Shortbuzz. Today in this video we are going to talk about abiogenesis or emergence of cell theory. Why was it needed? What happened? We'll learn it in complete detail. So I'll start with step by step. Let's start with what is abiogenesis. So the theory that states that non-living thing can be spontaneously changed into living beings. This is seriously not possible that a table can give birth to a living being or any kind of non-living thing. A chair cannot produce human beings. These are very general theories. So these were the things considered under spontaneous generation. The theory named was spontaneous generation, this whole concept. So this theory was developed by Aristotle, an ancient Greek philosopher, this spontaneous generation. Next we will talk about Francesco Redi. He was an Italian doctor, tried to disprove the theory of abiogenesis. Now what did he do? That he left 4 jars of rotting meat open to the air. He kept it open. After a while he found some maggots on the meat and the flies hovering in the air. Obviously it's a common thing that if we lift something, then flies will automatically come and feed on it. So what happened? That Reddy repeated the same thing again but covered 2 of the jars with a lid. Now he did same but it was covered. Now Reddy understood this thing and he concluded that those flies were not coming out from those meats, but it was coming one by one because the lid was open. It was coming from outside. The conclusion was that the flies are not getting produced from a meat piece. So he disproved the Aristotle theory of abiogenesis. So after disapproving, what happened? The supporter of abiogenesis said that since the jars were covered and it was controlled, no fresh air circulated around the meat, and they also claimed that the air was the active ingredient that caused spontaneous generation. Now they were resisting on this theory. So after this, Reddy thought to give it a final try, and what he does that he put a fine mesh wire over the jars so air could not circulate, air could get inside. Results: no maggots, because it is not possible. So proof rotting meat can't be changed into flies, obviously. So what happened that, however, critics said that the mesh was too fine to let this active ingredient into the jars. So abiogenesis again was not yet disproved by Francesco Redi. So the next person who came in front to prove the theory of abiogenesis was John Needham. What he did, that he took a piece of meat broth which was already teeming with microbes that made it look cloudy. Now why I'm telling that meat broth was teeming with microbes? Because today, after all these knowledge, we can conclude that microbes are everywhere, but at that time people didn't had much of knowledge. So the meat broth had microbes itself, which was making it look already cloudy. So what happened, that he heated it for very short time until the meat broth was clear. Okay, but there was still microbes in it. What happened, that after a few days microbes were present. He concluded that microbes came from non-living things, thus supporting abiogenesis. He gave up this theory. Now there are 2 big problems. What? Like, he used a cork seal to allow air to circulate, but it allowed microbes to enter. As I said, microbes are everywhere, obviously it will enter. Secondly, he heated the broth for a short time, which didn't obviously kill the microbes and didn't destroy all the microbes. So hence it's concluded as a poor science. Well, so till now there was no concrete evidence of abiogenesis. So what happened, that this particular Needham's experiment was continued by Lazzaro Spallanzani. He performed this experiment but with melted glass at the top of the flask, so to seal it and then heat it for long time. Now what happened, that the result showed no microbes present because he heated for a very long period of time. However, critics again claimed that once again there was no active ingredient, which was air, so it was not allowed to enter the flask. So abiogenesis was yet not disproved. So the next and most important person who plays the role in theory of abiogenesis is Louis Pasteur, who came to rescue What Pasteur did, that he heated an open flask containing microbe filled with meat broth for a long time, again killing all the microbes. So now what he does, that he then let it set for a few days, and it was again teeming with microbes. Now previously when he heated, there was no microbes, it was contamination free. But since the flask mouth was open and it was very much open and contact with air, the broth again started teeming up with microbes and it get contaminated. So he understood it very clearly, and he gave this hypothesis that the microbes must have entered from the air, which was obviously very much true and correct. So now comes the Pasteur's experiment. Pasteur was able to reduce the variable affecting his experiment down to 1, the microbes in the air. Disproved the theory of abiogenesis with theory of biogenesis, which is known as only life can produce life. Now then arises one question, that where did the first living come from? Now to this the answer belongs to cell theory, which was done by Robert Hooke. I'll probably give the proper detailed video in my next video. So I hope that you understand the whole theory of abiogenesis. Thanks for watching. Do share, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Bye bye.